going head-to-head.
Yeah, both of these players have decks that they are the only player who brought them. Control Mage, only 2 Control Mages the entire tournament.
And Udachi. We're going to start things off with the Highlander Dragon Priest versus Sintolol's Big Spell Mage. Now, we kind of talked a little bit about why how Fr0zen feels about this matchup, but we don't talk about exactly why it is. When we talk about how greedy Sintolol's lists are, how is it going to impact matchups like this one?
Well, Sintolol is playing a particularly threat-heavy version of Big Spell Mage, whereas Fr0zen is playing a much more sort of streamlined anti-aggro version. Sintolol has a lot of big threats. That means that he is able to put the pressure on in some of these matchups and actually be asking the questions rather than just having the answers. This matchup is one where I feel like maybe one of Fr0zen's better ones. Both the fact that Sintolol isn't as draw-heavy without Arcane Intellect in this deck, and also the fact that Fr0zen is playing the Dragon version.
All right, well, Sintolol's key cards, you can see some of them, of course, being the greed packages. Medivh the Guardian, Dragoncaller Alana, of course, has Fr0zen Jaina in the mix, and Alex Straza. A lot of 8+ cards in this deck.
Yeah, the Jaina draw here is pretty big for Sintolol because that's one of the reasons you need to have card draw in this particular matchup, because Jaina is so important for you to find. Your deck's ability to combat Shadow Reaper Anduin is very much predicated on your ability to make water elementals to gain you life to ensure you don't just get pinged down over turns.
Well, Sintolol has the Radiant Familiar, so he actually has some action this turn. Part of Fr0zen's hand was relegated to just being a little passive because he needs to save his coin for the curve.
I was going to say, he also just has Arcane Tyrant. This is a card you usually play in combination with a removal spell, like a Meteor or Blizzard. But here, Sintolol can just play a 4/4, and 4 attack minions are quite strong against Priest. So this is an interesting selection for Fr0zen here from his Draken Operative. Flame Strike is not particularly useful against most of the minions in Sintolol's deck because they tend to be quite large and there aren't that many of them. Dragoncaller Alana's interesting, but I don't think there's that many big spells in Fr0zen's deck either. He's just going to go with Acolyte of Pain.
It's just tempting, you know? You think, well, I have the Dragonfire Potion, I have a Psychic Scream, and you think, oh wait, that's it. I don't have any dragons to summon. And while 15 stats are on the board, or 3 5/5s are on the board, it's not going to be enough.
And here, while Sintolol could have played the Arcane Tyrant for free off of that Meteor, he's getting more damage in with the Arcane Tyrant because he chose to play it last turn.
And he's getting the tempo, which allows him to get ahead on board. We'll see if it ends up making the damage matter, though, because it does seem that this mage plays the more defensive role. I'm surprised that he wants to be so aggressive.
Another Operative is available for Fr0zen.
Yeah.
Which I expect we will see him take.
And both of them, of course, both the dragons in Fr0zen's hand are dependent on synergies with the other dragon, so we'd have to let go of one synergy for the other. Dragon Operative is meaty stats. Plus, you never know what the card that you get from your opponent could be really good. He gets Alex Straza.
Alex Straza can be pretty powerful.
Huge
one of the things about this mage deck is that barring the Meteors and Polymorphs, everything else is essentially damage-based removal. Meteor, yes, it is damage, but it's so much damage you don't really think of it as not being good against big minions. If Fr0zen is able to keep presenting large threats, it can actually run Sintolol out of the big removal he has for them, which can be difficult for him to ultimately deal with.
And one has been used, a Meteor on a single Operative. And, Fr0zen kind of snap-picked at Alex Straza, which, might hint Sintolol of being able to keep some removal back, but maybe Fr0zen's going to force it out of him, and he can't use that.
Sintolol here, though, he has an excellent couple of power turns coming up. Medivh the Guardian and Fr0zen Jaina are both extremely powerful. He binds a Polymorph.
Close call.
Polymorph does give him a tool to deal with a big minion, but he'd love to save it for after he plays Fr0zen Jaina because then it represents a threat as well.
Well, Fr0zen has an opportunity to clear a lot of this board with Dragonfire Potion. But, of course, he knows that removal is a lot better against this version of deck because of the threat of Medivh the Guardian. And because Medivh can develop so much tempo on the board through Fireland's Portal off the ATS charge, it is worth having big removal in your hand.
Yeah, there are a number of threats that demand very specific removal from Fr0zen's deck. There is the threat of Dragoncaller Alana in particular can generate a huge board that can be very difficult for Fr0zen's deck to deal with without either Psychic Scream or Shadow Reaper Anduin, because Dragonfire Potion does nothing to kill a swarm of dragons.
True. Also, another important note from Fr0zen picking up the Alexstrasza was getting the synergy off that Dustbreaker and free it from the hand because it seemed like it was constantly getting stuck. Still picks up the Arcane Tyrant, so add another reason or another way to add tempo to the board if he's able to play a big spell off of this ATS charge.
And I think we're going to see, well, Fr0zen was about to just attack the Operative Inn and then I believe planned to cast the Shadow Reaper Anduin to get his damage going. Such an epic play.
Yeah.
Reverberating throughout the hall.
With production value, do some slow motion Hearthstone.
And Jaina, one good Death Knight deserves another. And this is, as I mentioned, the key card in Sintolol's deck in this matchup because the Water Elementals he's able to generate off of his removal from this point forward makes all of Fr0zen's minion-based threats even dangerous for him to play. But he does have Anduin already, so he can try to just whittle things down with removal and use his hero power to try to get Sintolol's life total down.
Darkness speaks to me.
Right, and you know, Sinto picked up Dirty Rat, by the way. We kind of talk about how Dirty Rat can play a big role. A lot of people look at it as a way to maybe snipe Raz's battle cry, but if Fr0zen had it, most likely would have prioritized playing it early on. What really the effect of Dirty Rat is sniping that Prophet Valen or, you know, maybe another piece of the combo. Like if you get Radiant Elemental, you're still not that terribly upset if you can't land the Prophet Valen.
It's also important to note that one of the ways that Fr0zen can try to maneuver the game after Jaina comes down is to avoid playing minions, to avoid giving Water Elementals to Sintolol. Dirty Rat at that point can also help generate targets for your damage and your removal so that you can make Water Elementals if your opponent is trying to play around it.
Fr0zen's going to be short on the rope here. He needs to play a minion. He's going for Alexstrasza aggressively.
Okay.
Wow, I wasn't sure if he was going to go for it this quickly.
I see Sintolol's eyebrows raised there. He's like, okay, talking to himself.
Wow.
I don't think this is what he was expecting.
Yeah, that escalated really quickly. He has a way to deal with it, but now he has to be concerned about the burst range and whether or not he has the tools to follow up a defensive push. He has double Arcane Artificer, so he actually has a lot of life gain.
He does. Decide.
We'll also see what comes out of this ATS charge as well. Oh my goodness. That is a very weak minion.
But the Water Elemental is not, and that damage done by the Alexstrasza starting to get healed up by the lifesteal.
Fr0zen still has access to an easy clear with Dragonfire Potion, but the longer he can hold on to it without having to commit, the better.
This is actually kind of interesting because Fr0zen can theoretically go for a fatigue strategy.
Oh. Yeah, I was like, why not just kill this Cult Master?
This is actually really interesting for Fr0zen here. He's recognized, okay, well, you have Jaina, you have ATS, and you got this Cult Master, and he's changing gears.
Yeah.
His plan is now not to burn Sintolol out, but rather to exhaust all of his threats. This is a very interesting direction from Fr0zen.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's a bold strategy, Kibler. We'll see if it works out for him.
I am concerned by his deck's ability to beat Dragoncaller Alana if he is planning on playing a fatigue plan, because he has already used his Shadow Reaper Anduin, and the only removal that deals with that many dragons left in his deck is Psychic Scream. And Psychic Scream will put a bunch of cards into his opponent's deck. Oh, and now the Acolyte
can equalize it.
All right, well, and this is actually potentially an opportunity for Sintolol to burn some of Fr0zen's cards. He Blizzard plus Ping makes a Water Elemental, overdraws Fr0zen for 1. It puts him at 10 cards in hand at the draw. He could burn Raza here.
He has the opportunity to also kill his own Cult Master, too, to prevent the draw.
True.
I'm late. I'm late.
And that's what he's going to do.
Yeah, great spot here in counter from Sintolol. And we see 10 cards in the hand for Fr0zen.
The burn, Powered Shield. That's not a card he cared too much about if he is on a fatigue plan. This is one of the things I love about watching Fr0zen play, because very often he will find playing decks like this, like the Malagos Druid deck that he qualified with in the Bahamas, finding ways to utilize his cards that and his deck and his general strategy that aren't really plan A. The plan B of identifying what your other potential roads to victory are besides your deck's normal win condition is, I think, one of the things that really sets Fr0zen apart as a player.
Yeah, and he's also, kind of a mathematical savant. If you ever talk to him about statistics, crunching numbers mentally, the guy is a calculator, a walking calculator. So this guy really understands fatigue situations. Another person that I put him similar to is Purple, who's also from the Americas region. Both guys who can calculate very quickly, and even though it's like halfway through their deck, kind of recognizing this is the strategy I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with the exhaustion plan. Sinto has one more charge from Zatias to generate a big threat, and this
That's the Alana.
Firelands portal can be pretty big. So let's see what comes out here. But Cobalt and Catacomb significantly nerfed the amount of good minions that come out.
All right. Well, speaking of nerfed minions, there's a Ancient of Lore.
Yeah, you can also get this Uberushi Berserker a little bit stronger, too.
Uberushi? It's Kurabashi. You never played World of Warcraft, did you? Gubarushi Berserker.
You
Come on,
got me.
Come on.
You got me. Kubarushi is like a world. It's like an Azeroth car brand.
It's troll cars?
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, this was one of the first interactions we discovered in Hearthstone back in the vanilla. Pinging your own Gubarushi Berserker. In this case, Fr0zen is gonna try to deal with this board. Very threatening amount of damage right now. He definitely does not want to Psychic Scream this.
And that is the threat here, because Psychic Scream is his only way to deal with the threat of Dragoncaller Alana. Also, really hurts his plan of trying to fatigue Sintolol, if that is what he's actually going to go with.
Can also benefit from gaining a little bit of armor by using the Artificer with Shadow Wave Dad, it looks like.
That is one angry Gubarushi Berserker.
Say it enough times and it just becomes a thing, Kibler.
Oh, it's a thing. It's already a thing.
One thing that's also kind of a hidden MVP for Sinto is the fact that Arcane Tyrant is an elemental and will be gaining at least 8 life from attacks. It's a significant swing. Sinto picks up another form of area of effect. Now it comes down to whether or not he feels like he can generate enough threats, or perhaps is he just going to play passive for now, draw cards.
Time melts away.
Well, he does draw cards. All right, well, it is Dragoncaller time.
I mean, the longer he waits, the likelier it is Fr0zen draws into the Psychic Scream.
But given Fr0zen's plan that he has demonstrated here of making Sintolol draw cards and potentially trying to hit a fatigue situation, Psychic Scream is not necessarily something he wants to have to play.
Right.
That plan goes out the window once he Psychic Screams this many minions. Because Sintolol puts 4 more cards in his deck, rather 5 more cards in his deck, and is well ahead in a fatigue situation.
Well, I think he also would want to kill Dragoncaller Alana as well to not give
that's not a card you really want your opponent to just cast again.
Right, so he can't actually do that without giving, because it doesn't have the free hero power. This is an instance of many of why it's punishing not having Raza.
Yeah, and the fatigue situation is now gone. Ooh, speaking of fatigue situations, Skulking Geist is able to remove several cards. I believe there are 2 1-cost spells remaining in Fr0zen's deck. Damage.
Let the pain speak to me.
Well, Sinto now no longer on the threat of fatigue going to go ahead and Dragon's Fury his own minions, so it doesn't potentially just get silenced or otherwise removed without drawing the card.
Yeah, card draws of the utmost importance here. Fr0zen still has no sign of the Raza. Can draw, or he can also create a potion of this Kazakus.
A 10-cost potion, Summon 3 is quite strong. And
yes.
Oh, it looks like he didn't take Summon 3 from the first mode. Interesting. I'm curious what his choice was. I sort of zeroed in on that one because I feel like Summon 3 and plus Health is specifically so powerful in this matchup, but Fr0zen has another idea.
Very interesting. I mean, the 6 damage AoE can kind of play into the exhaustion plan.
But I think that's out the window. I feel like his ability to combat the long game, in the sense that he's trying to actually run Sintolol out of cards and win in fatigue, is not realistic at this point.
There's still Dragon's Fury and Blizzard and a Meteor. Are you really going to be able to establish a big enough board for the Icar of Undeath to summon significant minions? Right? 2 operators have died, so much junk has also died.
Yeah, it is a sheep all, deal 6 to all, so he is firmly on the removal plan with that potion, looking for a way to clear the board if that Dragon Collar Alana does come back.
I wonder how much Skulking Geist actually helps Fr0zen, because it will eliminate 2 cards from his deck, as it looks like he wins the joust and gets the Dragon's Fury expected result.
And now Blizzard King will turn Kazakus conveniently into a Water Elemental.
Curious Glimmerroot.
Anduin has been very shy in a lot of these matches. He's been, Anduin Raza combo specifically. We have seen a lot of players wait a very long time to actually get things together. Finds Arcane Artificer. That is potentially a reasonable card, cheap at least, to go with Raza Anduin, and could buy him some life if it comes to that.
Doesn't look like he has enough for the hero power clear unless he commits the Northshire Cleric, but Northshire Cleric can also draw cards right now. He would draw 2, and Fr0zen would have a higher chance of getting Raza soon, but he's also going to run into hand space issues and also fatigue problems.
It is quite
the conundrum.
It is a very real concern.
Short. Darkness speaks to me.
And Sintolol does have the Raven that can just attack into one of these minions. And okay, so Fr0zen with the silence pings. His goal with this is to ensure that the Water Elemental does not have the 4 health, so it can't just attack into his Glimmerroot and then get pinged down to give him a full health Water Elemental again. Silence, crucially, does not actually remove lifesteal from the Water Elementals. That's a universal effect from Jaina.
Secondary Rat's pretty tempting too. Fr0zen's been holding a lot of cards for quite some time and has not played Raza, so you feel like you can start pegging him on the potential Prophet Valen. He's been holding a handful of cards for several turns now. That Circle of Healing's been there since the beginning of the game, to the far left.
Yeah.
Oh, he goes for it.
Okay, well, that's a Water Elemental. You see a little sort of nod, okay, from Sintolol. Not really what he's looking for, but will give him a Water Elemental.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much Fr0zen even cared about losing it, though. He wasn't really, it didn't seem like he was planning on playing Knobs Engineers.
Yeah, Geist rips 2 more cards out of Fr0zen's deck, so now he is the one who is facing a potential fatigue scenario.
You kind of brought it up. Where is the Raza? It just never seems to make its way in this matchup that we've seen so far.
Fr0zen can play his Blood Mage Thalnos and ping it himself, so at least Sintolol can't, and it digs him a little bit deeper. But the concern really is, for Fr0zen, can he chew through all of the minions from Sintolol as well as actually close out the game? Because he needs to deal with the 34 life Sintolol has, and of course, Sintolol still has Artificer in reserve. He still has another Ice Block. He still has Alex Straza. So there's just a lot that Fr0zen needs to fight through.
The shadows grow short.
I got the best deals anyway.
Fr0zen's going to go for the card draw finally. He's got Mind Blast and Spirit Lash. And he picks up Raza with the next immediate draw.
Got himself a Mind Blast
Yeah.
too, so that does increase his damage range. This does run the risk of his minions getting Flame Striked away and pinged down, which gives yet another Water Elemental over to Sintolol.
We're going to play one of our expensive cards like Flame Strike. Do you want to toss in the Arcane Artificer with the process? So that way you can get the maximum armor.
I feel like you very often want to wait on Arcane Artificer depending on the situation. Here, I feel like Sintolol is sufficiently far ahead that perhaps he can just gain the 7 armor, and it looks like he agrees. Often you want to hold onto Artificer if there's a threat of getting burst down, so you can play Artificer plus Meteor on Velen plus Ice Block to keep yourself alive post burst. But right now, Sintolol is just very far ahead.
Fr0zen finally assembles 2 members of the A team, but is it too late?
Okay, it's down to just 14 life, and there's a lot of threat on the other side of the board.
Right. I mean, maybe he has the potion now.
He may need to use this Kazakus potion. He would love to hold on to it so he has an answer to the Dragon Collar Alana if it does come back out, but he may not have a choice.
I bet Fr0zen's also going to try to find a way to get greedy too, because he has an Arcane Artificer. And if he's able to swing that Kazakus potion for 10 life, that would be also huge as well.
That is going to be tough to do. There's still a couple of removal spells available for Sintolol. He'd have to have a clear board so the Artificer does not get attacked, and then play a 10-mana card.
Yeah, it might. It's looking more like
at this point, this potion has to be it. He doesn't have enough time to do pretty much anything else. Oh wow, he's not okay. Does he even have the time for all these animations? Okay, well, the rope's just patiently waiting over there as a little nub.
Sintolol's actually on a draw for lethal, as he has 8 on the board and potential Firelance Portal to end the game. Fr0zen takes the risk, acknowledges that if he loses, he needs to take that risk in order to win, and he might lose anyways if he plays very defensive. And looks like it's paid off so far. Still long ways away from winning this game.
Sintolol has a lot of pressure. He has the ability to make even more water elemental. Sintolol debating if he wants to add even more threat to this board.
Is now.
No Spirit Lash from Fr0zen, but now he's going to be able to clear everything through a Kazakus potion.
All right, well, the last thing that Fr0zen wants to see now is Dragon Collar Alana, because he has lost his last way to deal with a board full of giant dragons.
Oh my goodness.
And here's the Dragon Army. 7 minions from 1 card,
wow.
And that is it. Sintolol takes game 1 with Dragon Collar Alana.
Checkmate. Finally cornering all of the priest removal, forcing the Kazakus potion to come out, and Fr0zen's risks have been completely mitigated here. Sinto takes a very important game 1, but we still have a lot of Hearthstone to play. And this matchup promises to be just as long as that game, I feel. Sometimes. But Sinto is not afraid to express whatever he's thinking.
Well, I'm sure what he's thinking in this match is that he has a bit of an advantage over Fr0zen Fr0zen's version of Jade Druid, we talked about a little bit, is this Violet Teacher version. And his deck is pretty strong. We see a little bit of smile from Fr0zen there, a little wave from Sintolol. He knows what this means. Coin Wild Growth means it's being followed up by Jade Blossom, and it's being followed up by a lot of action. Sinto's version of this deck has Jade Spirit, where Fr0zen has Violet Teacher, the Oaken Summons package, which is stronger against aggressive decks, but Sintolol's deck is stronger against other control decks. Yeah. And that's why Fr0zen, when he learned he was playing Sintolol, was very much unhappy, because this is a very tough matchup on all fronts for him.
Yeah, I thought this was kind of a tavern brawl, right? Where you start off at like 10 mana.
Yeah, the Jade Druid Mirror is basically a tavern brawl.
All right, so now this kind of is the first turn that Sinto is going to sit back and evaluate, because he has multiple options. Obviously, Jade Behemoth was looking really good, but Nourished and Arcane Tyrant also continues his development. And I'm like looking at the double ultimate infestation with the ramp, and Sinto knows what's coming next.
Yep, he is going big, but well, there is an infestation available for Sintolol, so he can do the same thing. He can nourish and play out his Fandral if he wishes.
Right, I really was joking, I promise, about the start the game at 10 mana, and it really is going to come down to that. The board state is relatively even, and if Sinto does have, of course, the slight edge here, but Fr0zen will get the initiative with the ultimate infestation.
It's true. Though Sinto has the initiative in terms of Jade development so far. His Jades are a little bit bigger, already 4/4, whereas Fr0zen's next will be 3/3. There is the option for Sinto to nourish into Arcane Tyrant and Fandral, and that's what he's going to do. Yeah, take out this Violet Teacher.
Both players kind of laugh, even though the stakes are super high right now.
Yeah, this is a game. The winner of this game, or this match rather, is guaranteed $100,000, whereas the loser receives $50,000. They're playing for $50,000 and just kind of laughing and emoting back and forth.
This is getting a little silly at this point, quite frankly.
And the crowd loves it.
This is like theoretical Hearthstone. If you're like, okay, let's play a game.
Yeah, well, then I'd draw this.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, then I'd do this.
This trade does have implications for spreading play. And of course, even sets up a swipe.
Behemoth into swipe here does leave Fr0zen a little bit of board initiative at least. Though
right.
One of the big cards Sinto just drew, as I get ahead of myself, is that Medivh. Medivh is one of the differences in his Jade Druid deck compared to many of the others in the field, and it makes it have more power in these slower control matchups like the Jade Druid Mirror. So Sinto's deck basically is, on all angles, stronger in the mirror match than Fr0zen's, because it has more Jades, it has Medivh, it has just far more tools to give him those big options. And Fr0zen, this Violet Teacher can let him go wide, but when you go wide against another Jade Druid, you are just setting yourself up to potentially get ruined by spreading plague.
Well, he does have the branching paths.
True.
And his Jades are going to jump out ahead of his opponent. He also has Mark of the Lotus, too. Oh, man. Okay, I think he got everything off in time, but definitely cutting it close. Here's something that ends up being the case here. You know, I think Fr0zen summoned Jade just for tempo. Oh, he held it back. Okay, at the last second. I was talking about like how in the Jade Druid mirrors, a lot of times you value the tempo so much that it's very rare, at least in the early stages of the game, to see Jade Idols shuffled into the deck, because you really want to try and get your extra Jade power on the board to help tilt it to a victory.
Yes. Yeah, and this is an opportunity that Fr0zen has taken to recognize, okay, well, in the long game, Sinto has a big advantage, so I need to try to shorten the length of the game. I need to try to push here and not let Sinto take a turn and play Medivh. If Sinto gets to Medivh into Spreading Plague, that ends up being much more difficult for Fr0zen to overcome, whereas if he forces him to Spreading Plague here or take tons of damage, that is a much better situation.
Time waits for no one.
And I think that's maybe what Medivh is, or rather Sinto is debating. And he's actually going to go with Spreading Plague into branching paths of his own.
Challenge it.
Yeah, by making the Scarabs 2 power, which I believe is what he will do, it makes, yes, the... oh, he's actually going with double buffs on this. Rather than any kind of arm. All right, well, these are some scary Scarabs on Sinto's side of the board.
Right. The swipe does make clearing this a lot easier because of the branching path can give plus attack as well.
It does, but at the same time, that means that Fr0zen is essentially using his turn to trade with Sintolol's board, essentially. He could.
But the Jadon also develops a 6/6 too.
It's
I
true.
mean, it's not that bad for development, actually, when you look at the Vile Teacher's tokens being spawned too.
He's casting another spell this turn. He should have cast the other spell
Yeah.
first.
He should have cast the swipe so that he gets
And I think that Fr0zen just sort of had a realization that that was not the correct order if he's playing the swipe.
Time waits for no one.
And a little bit out of sequence, which does mean this student will be unbuffed.
That could make a huge difference.
It
the second
could.
Spreading Plague comes out here. Whether or not he actually kills the tokens. No swipe for Sinto on the other side.
And Fr0zen doing well, emptying his hand here for the second copy of Ultimate Infestation. And his Jades are actually bigger than Sintolol's at this point because Sinto has been taking these reactive turns.
And we'll have to do another reactive turn. The Death Knight does actually have the ability to remove one of the threats onto the board and still set up some walls to annoy Fr0zen's board as well.
Yeah, and crucially, because Fr0zen doesn't have the buff on that student, he is not able to just trade them into one of the Scarabs if he were to make Scarabs.
Right.
And
hero power.
Right.
Time waits for no one.
Another opportunity is, setting up the Medivh, but it gets challenged immediately by the 7-2. That's so annoying.
Yeah, the front half of Medivh is not very impressive here. Sinto definitely running down to the end of the rope here.
Okay.
All right.
Letting the Violet Teacher live at this point. Wants to get walls in the way, realizing that there's so much damage potential.
Well, this could be...
I mean, Sinto also kind of is light baiting Fr0zen, his board, potentially into another Spreading Plague.
And that's got to be something that's on Fr0zen's mind. If he makes a bunch of 1/1 students with this teacher, another Spreading Plague could be disastrous.
I do have to kind of wonder, too, Fr0zen is doing something similar that we saw previously, where he's been very conservative with his Jada. Had an opportunity to develop it much earlier from tempo, chose not to.
Yeah, I think he may be going with Bandrel Idol here after some trades.
Yeah. Which again, could have made a big difference. We'll see. But for now, Fr0zen's content with getting the best of both worlds. Drawing Bandrel means that he gets to both shuffle and develop the 6/6, and his Jays are far ahead now of Sinto while pressuring his life total. This is very scary, and Sinto picks up Jade Idol. Not a good defensive card whatsoever.
And Fr0zen's one remaining card is an Infestation.
Right. I mean, Sinto's even just worried about potentially dying to another Marco Lotus
Right.
or Branching Pass. I mean, let alone the ultimate infestation.
Yeah, this wide board does represent a huge potential threat from either of those buff cards from Fr0zen. That's really how his version of Jade Druid is built to operate. It's built to make branching paths so much scarier.
Right. And that's the problem with the greed builds. If you're a little bit behind, then you don't get to set the initiative. And also why going first in a mirror can be so powerful, because you get that initiative. Even though Sintolol had double ramp, so did Fr0zen. You got to set the pace. And the Vile Teacher stayed alive for so long.
Going to go ahead and punch his way through, and the slime will take out the 7-power golem on the other side. But speaking of power, Ultimate Infestation number 2 is going to take out the golem and draw Fr0zen a whole new hand of cards.
Yeah, and Sintolol's going to have to rely on the Spreading Plague. I wonder if Fr0zen maybe I want to even trade the 1/1 token in to the Scarab, but that's just going to be a concede. Fr0zen showing a lot of life this series with an important Jade Druid mirror that he was unfavored in.
Yeah, and that is definitely a matchup that he really, really wanted to win. And interestingly, the concession there from Sintolol, I think that does show a little bit of his. He's having fun.
2013 World Championship a lot. Well, there we go here into game number 3. Fr0zen is going to turn to the Mage. Sintolol going to stay on the Jade Druid. And this one, we'll see if Fr0zen's going to be able to corner the Jade Druid. Because, on paper, this actually does seem to be okay matchup for Fr0zen.
It can be. The key card in this matchup for Fr0zen very clearly is Skulking Geist.
Yes.
If he's unable to find Skulking Geist before Sintolol can get his Jades, especially if he gets multiple Jade idols going before the Geist comes out, it's a very big problem.
Right.
Fr0zen does have a lot of strong tools in the matchup. Lots of removal if he can find Jaina early. It's fantastic. This is actually a matchup where the Arcane Intellects are very nice. A lot of the matchups against other controlling decks, you don't necessarily want Arcane Intellect to be cast as much as you can, because it can come down to fatigue situations. But in this, you're really trying to get yourself to that Jaina, to that Skulking Geist as quickly as possible.
Here are some of the key cards. You mentioned the Skulking Geist. I wonder if perhaps Dirty Rat can play a big factor into things.
It can. Just looking at Sintolol's hand, if Fr0zen is the Dirty Rat, the Jade Spirit, that reduces the Jade count. If the Dirty Rat's out in Medivh, that means there's no Atiesh. He does have to deal with the 7/7 body very early, but it's going to come down next turn anyway if he doesn't hit it. So
right.
I think we may see potentially a Dirty Rat this turn. I think he may go for the trade first in case there's a Jade Behemoth, if he is going to play it. Yep. All right, so Jade count down by 1.
Yeah, it's useful, I guess, in the very...
Ooh, this is one of the situations where the secret package in Fr0zen's deck does betray him.
Yes.
As the Raven Familiar does not get him a card.
You can see Fr0zen's uncomfortable with that, because that was trying to snipe.
Jaina is a big draw that can enable Fr0zen to start taking control when he is able to use his removal spell later, but the coin is not something you like to use early if you can avoid it, but the pressure from that Medivh is pretty huge.
Yeah. Fr0zen wants to get ahead of Sintolol on the board, not to fall behind and constantly have to struggle to remove it. Dark Arakoa. Very meaty minion.
Well, Sintolol does have the infestation that he can play with that Atiesh next turn. Fr0zen has already used his coin, so he's going to be playing from behind, very far behind, for the rest of this game. As Sintolol is getting to 10 mana, while Fr0zen only has 6. Yeah, you see Fr0zen kind of closing his eyes in despair, disgust, you can say. Oh my god, that is Yashiraj. Okay, well, Arcane Tyrant coming down. Yashiraj gonna pull out a Spellbreaker. Well, that is going to be pretty interesting.
Oh man, he's gonna need that Dragon's Fury to hit a 7 damage AoE, but he just drew one of his Firelance portals. Oh, this is getting dicey.
Wow. This is a mess of a board that Fr0zen's going to have to kill. As you mentioned, Dragon's Fury can do it, but he still has a lot of cheap spells in his deck. He has Arcane Intellect, Ice Barrier, 2 copies of Polymorph left.
Right.
He actually has to hit, I believe it's 1 and 3.
If he does, though.
And this Malfurion here, and this can give Sintolol aggressive potential that doesn't expose him significantly. He's going to punch this. Looks like he actually just hero powered an attack.
Yeah, he just wants to pressure the life total.
Okay, he's going to use the last charge of Zatiesh here.
Also denies the draw from the Yasha.
All right, Dragon's Fury. It's a 7! He clears the entire board. That is one angry dragon.
Sinto nodding his head, kind of recognizing, you know what? I play control mage. I kind of understand that's what happens. And Fr0zen also drew the Ice Spear, so he improved his odds.
Well, things are still scary for Fr0zen. He may have gotten out of that hole, but Sintolol is digging him an entirely new one.
More Jade Idols getting shuffled in.
Oh my God. Jade Idol, Jade Idol. The march of the golems continues.
Fr0zen looking pretty upset about that one. He just dodged a bullet. He's going to have to dodge another one.
All right. Can he hit the 7? 3.
Oh.
No, that is not it.
Excuse me, you are on fire.
The dragon is done being angry. He's like, no, I need some time off. I need to be a little zen, meditate, you know?
This is an ice block pop available to Sintolol.
Yeah.
12 plus the 4 from Branching Pass and 4 from the Swipe.
Sintolol
Tangled web.
can take it out. That would potentially leave him with just a hero power for a break or lethal the following turn.
Does have the luxury even popping at 1.
Yes.
With the Malfurion hero power.
My
Kind of tempting not to do that, considering that your board presence beyond that is just a single Jade Idol. After that, you have no real minions of substance, and it's easy for your opponent to clear.
It's a lot of resources to invest to break the block, and if your opponent has a strong follow-up, you don't have that much left, but I think he's going for it.
Pops at 4, so he can use his mana to summon a Jade Idol. I like it. Split the difference, develop the board. Force Fr0zen to deal with this.
Ooh, the Artificer means that Fr0zen...
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a pretty important pickup, I think, because now you can gain armor and remove the minions with the Meteor.
Yeah, Fr0zen can play Artificer into Ice Barrier and Meteor this turn, which kills all but the 6/6 and gains him 9 life immediately, as well as the 8 life from Barrier, so he doesn't run the risk of getting potentially popped even. He could also set up block and potentially have block with Jaina, but okay, yeah, he's going for Barrier plus Meteor.
I like it. More Jade Idols. These cycle cards from Sinto need to come up pretty big. He has a handful of Jades, both his Behemoths, Eye of Blackpaw, Jade Spirit. More Jades.
All right, that's a lot of big minions.
7, 7, 8, 8.
There's no big AoEs left in Fr0zen's deck. He's played both Dragon's Furies. He has played Flamestrike. He has played Blizzards. He's played Meteor.
I'll level with you. I kind of lost track of the Jade Idol count. I wonder if this is the last ones.
And now, I mean, Fr0zen has the Barrier up, but he does not have block up. He chose to play Barrier, but that means that he has no defense next turn to guarantee he stays alive. He can't just play a Jaina this turn.
Jaina puts in the 20, and yeah, there's way more than 20 damage on the board.
if he had played block rather than barrier last turn, he could play Jaina and have some hope of staying alive.
Right.
But his block would clearly be popped. I think without polymorph, immediately, polymorph with the block and having the Jaina up, maybe he could survive. But I think this is just too many big minions too soon for Fr0zen to deal with. He has no time to play his big 9-cost cards.
I think you're right. I think Fr0zen may have gotten too greedy with the ice barrier instead of the ice block.
To be fair, I don't know even if he had played block and could play Jaina this turn, there's a way back into this because there's just so many large minions. Fireland's Portal finds a 0/7.
Oh,
that is not going to cut it.
Yeah.
There simply are not tools. And even if there were, Sintolol has the full reload with Infestation.
Fr0zen is in huge trouble, and that is going to be a concede. Sinto is one game away from moving on to the semifinals.
Fr0zen knew this matchup was tough coming in, and now he's down 2-1.
His buddies at Gamer Sensei are losing it. He hasn't qualified just yet, but they're showing their passion and support. Round 2, they came out in droves. They're standing room only. And we found out, too, that, those are great players. Stan is fantastic. Hoy is great. Surrender is top-notch. But the real list of assassins comes from the people who sneak in at the final moments.
Speaking of which, Fr0zen, competitor in the Last Call tournament last year for the Americas.
Where he infamously played Priest. Control Priest to try and target, I believe, a
Control Warrior was one of the most popular decks then, and he had double Mind Control Priest. And he's actually said that he wanted to try and make a counter lineup for this tournament, but not get too clever. And I actually asked him, you didn't want to repeat the Last Call last year? And he kind of grinned. But anyway, we are into this, which could be the final game of this match. Sintolol playing his Priest deck, which is not a Priest deck we've seen much so far this weekend. He's playing Dragon Combo Priest against Fr0zen's Highlander Priest.
Yeah, this is definitely quite the volatile matchup as we've even seen with Sinto's match versus Purple. It was kind of a knife's edge where the Dragon Priest was always threatening to kill the Highlander Priest at any given moment. Very scary if you're the Priest. It's like just a single 5 health minion can be game over.
Yeah. And here, Sintolol is in a position he would rather not be. He is currently behind on the board. And he does have a Potion of Madness. He could cash in his Potion of Madness for a new card if he wants. Potion of Madness Heal.
Right.
I think he might do that. Yeah, it's actually exactly what he's going to do. He's going to Potion of Madness heal up the Cleric.
Yeah. Also a little bit interesting that Fr0zen had the opportunity to coin out a heal and draw a card, but rather than do that, he wants to just save the coin for future uses.
He wants his cards here. Finds a draw with the Cleric. Think of an Auctioneer. Inner Fire, one of the very key cards of Sintolol's deck. And Dustbreaker takes care of that meddlesome insect. Cleric is down, and Kazakus picks up Fr0zen here.
Right.
With Raza in hand, lots of the key pieces coming together. One of the problems for Fr0zen in this matchup is that a lot of his removal is not quite as strong against Sintolol's deck as it could be, as Dragonfire Potion does struggle to kill the dragons Sintolol is playing.
And Fr0zen wants board tempo, wants to get ahead of the trades rather than just be reactive to the Dragon Node operative.
A pretty poor selection of spells for Sintolol here. He doesn't really want most of these. Potion of Madness can potentially take an Acolyte or a Blood Mage Thalnos, draw him some cards, and prevent the draw, which is what he decides to go with.
Yeah, having combat tricks like Potion of Madness is often what makes his deck sometimes get over the hump at the very last second. I like it.
Potion at 5. Mystic Wool is potentially attractive, as is King's Blood.
Yes.
So being able to deal with a large minion and draw cards, kind of the combination of effects that Fr0zen is looking for, that is in fact exactly what he takes.
Well, 2 pieces of a huge combo is available to Sinto with Rain Elemental and the Lyra. But but nothing really too much going on here this turn, considering that the Dustbreaker does hurt him a lot too. If he plays Dustbreaker and heals, the Fr0zen still has the trade on the Jacket Operative, so
It's true.
It doesn't look very appetizing.
I see Sinto shaking his head,
Yeah.
not really happy. Just going to cycle Master Spell and kill the Raza, heal up his dragon. But this is not what he wants. He doesn't want to be passing the tempo back and actually just allowing Fr0zen to be the one who's dictating the pace of the game. This actually is just yet an auctioneer opportunity for Fr0zen. There is no way for Sintolol to just directly kill this. He could Duskbreaker plus Pyromancer Inner Fire. That's his potential way to kill this auctioneer right now. But there's no individual card that can actually clear this. But he does happen to have the one copy of the Pyromancer that does offer him a clear with that Duskbreaker.
Right, and he's trading comp. He basically, Fr0zen's willing to exchange resources. He has a lot of card draw in his hand, says you have to find some way to kill this. And Sinto would have to give up a valuable card in the Inner Fire, plus some other possible important cards like the Wild Pyromancer, which can help draw big cards with the Northshire Cleric.
I must consider.
He is indeed considering. Yeah, can't let that live. Duskbreaker plus Pyromancer Inner Fire. And Auctioneer goes down, and each of these take a little bit of damage, which could matter. Psychic Scream, the draw for Fr0zen, so he has an answer to any board Sintolol can create, including that Malagos, which you haven't actually even commented on since it came off a Northshire Cleric early on. Huge health 4-attack minion is very difficult for Fr0zen to deal with most of the cards in his deck.
Yes, but he has two cards that can. Not only the Kazakus Potion, but the Psychic Scream. Also, Fr0zen does have a way to kill off this board. Oh, actually, no, he doesn't. Dragonfire Potion doesn't even hit the Dustbreaker.
Right.
Huh. Inconvenient. He could Shadow Visions, but there's a lot of spells remaining in his deck.
I was just going to Psychic Scream him. That may come back to haunt Fr0zen because he is just trying to get a safe board here, but Sinto's got a lot of really scary boards that he can generate.
Yeah, and Sinto now has Lyra and Radiant Elemental, and let's say Fr0zen uses his Kazakus Potion, and then Malagos goes to contested. The thing is, though, Sinto does commit to a Lyra and the Divine Spirit. A single Shadow or Pain will shut down the Lyra, and then all of a sudden he used a big combo piece, and now he's just down to one Divine Spirit, one Inner Fire, and needs Shadow Visions for help.
And crucially, I believe both clerics are dead for Sintolol.
Right.
Or, well, one is in his hand, but one cleric is dead. So his ability to draw cards is far less than Fr0zen's deck. So if he invests these resources and they're killed, he's actually going for it. He's going to go ahead and Lyra, Radiant, Divine Spirit. He recognizes that he needs... not a Divine Spirit, okay?
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, dear. He runs right into Dragonfire.
Yes.
And now he's going to Malagos, and Fr0zen is going to have the Kazakus Potion.
Oh, it wouldn't be a world championship unless Malagos got turned into a sheep in the quarterfinals.
This one's not off Babbling Book. This one's off the Kazakus Potion, but Sintolol is not going to be happy.
Oh.
And there's a little that reaction he said that he could hold it into the stage. Well, maybe not when your win condition just goes down to a polymorph.
We need a bingo card, and that needs to be one on every single world championship. That is brutal for Sintolol, and oh man, you can just tell with the expression on his face that this is turning real ugly.
And that Inner Fire Fr0zen picked up is actually potentially a powerful tool with his Shadow Word Death. We saw this in one of Sintolol's previous games against Purple. He had a big high health minion that he was trying to buff up but keep out of range of Shadow Words. And the Inner Fire that at the time Purple picked up was able to give him a way to kill the Twilight Drake. Right. Sinto was hoping to sit back and defend from any removal until he could Inner Fire it.
And another problem, too, is that was his big dragon commit.
Right.
So if he picks up another operative...
Yeah, he is currently out of dragons. That Twilight Acolyte has no ability at the moment. Another Divine Spirit.
Wow.
You wish to live forever.
And Fr0zen does have a silence in his hand, so he can shut that down with silence if he decides he needs to.
Yeah, Fr0zen's got a lot of the answers, and the card draw that was plentiful is paying off.
Once upon a time.
Oh, let's just take Temperus. Let's go. That's not a card you take in this match. No. Of all matchup to play Temperus, this is the last one. It's in fact the opposite. If Sintolol had a Temperus, he could take 2 turns in a row. He just kills you immediately because he plays something, then buffs it and kills you.
Right.
So no, don't do it, Fr0zen.
You almost sold me on that one, but jeez.
Okay, Anixia. There you go. You can go proactive with a big dragon. That I can approve of anyway.
Huh. Twilight Drake's pretty nice and a meaty dragon, considering that Fr0zen also has his own handful of dragon synergies in effect.
Yeah, we're going to see the silence on the cleric, and it's going to go down. Another wince from Sintolol as the resource, the minion he built up so strong, is going down.
Yeah.
Got a hand of combo pieces, but he needs a lot more. Radiant Elemental, that'd be great if he still had that Lyra. That'd be great if he had Shadow Visions. Go digging.
Yeah, I think Sinto is just going to play this one out, but knows that this one is very likely to go Fr0zen's way. And Fr0zen just continues the all too familiar Draconoid Operative into basically infinite operative.
Here's another Nether Spite. So
Right.
it's the Dragon Priest Mirror of Age
Yes.
all over again. Just keep the train coming.
And for people unfamiliar with how Discover works, it is biased towards your class choices. So he's very likely to keep discovering Freeze Dragons.
Unlucky, no more operatives.
Oh, I guess I'll just generate more Ysera's, which draws me more dragons. Infinite source of dragons. I mean, he also has an Inner Fire, so like if he plays Ysera, that's
huge.
12 damage.
I wonder.
It is. Duskbreaker, all right. Fine. One thing that Fr0zen does need to be careful, though, is if he does have a huge minion of his own with a huge health, he could get Twilight Acolyte, Potion, Double Divine Spirit, Inner Fire. So he needs to be aware that he doesn't play something that Sintolol can just explode him with instantly. So Ysera is a real risk.
Ysera's a huge risk.
There's an operative, so Twilight Acolyte is online, operative is not.
Oh my gosh. You're right. If he had Inner Fire and a way to buff health just a little bit more.
Yeah, Ysera would have killed yourself.
That would have been death.
I wonder.
Yeah. A Power Word Shield and Inner Fire will do this.
It's true. Well, he's going to Duskbreaker himself, so Sintolol can't possibly do that.
This is so smart.
I love it. Fr0zen's great.
Wow.
He's going to damage all his own minions, so there is no threat of Twilight Acolyte plus health buffs into Inner Fire to kill him.
Fantastic recognition of how Sintolol's outs work. Wants to do his best to set up a lethal.
None of these cards do anything.
Great. Get Shadow or Death in the instance.
He's got Potion of Madness. If there's a big health minion on Sinto's side, Potion of Madness plus the Inner Fire, he can just combo him back with his own combo.
Right.
Another Potion of Madness. That's not going to do it. Mind Blast in Fr0zen's hand represents the lethal damage he needs. He may have to try to throw some minions into one another to take some damage away.
I mean,
he can Acolyte one of the operatives, potion it into the other one to take some damage off the board.
that's not the winning line.
It's not going to win the game, but it will mean he doesn't die next turn.
It's true. But throwing away the Twilight Acolyte means that he has zero chance to win at that point.
Yeah,
He's just going to hope that Fr0zen does that the damage, but he very much does.
Yeah, 13 on the board, Mind Blast in hand, and Fr0zen is going to take this match to a game number 5.
He said he had less than 10% chance to do it. But now all he has to do is win one more game. We're going to game 5. to determine who is going to the semifinals and who is going home. Would you want it any other way, Gilbert?
The typical versions of these decks. And the version that Fr0zen is playing is very atypical. And he needs some specific tools in this matchup. And frankly, this opening hand does not include those tools. Oh, well, there's an Arcanologist. That helps a lot. So the Ice Block in particular is obviously very crucial for Fr0zen to survive the big combos that Sintolol's deck is capable of. But most importantly, he needs to find polymorphs. He needs to find ways to deal with just the big health minions that Sintolol's deck is capable of generating and just connecting with over and over. Frankly, the barrier for Fr0zen was a fairly poor hit. He would love to have block. Well, there's both blocks. But now the Talon Priest plus Power Word Shield that are available to Sintolol here will generate some very large minions.
You're starting to sweat. This is definitely really intense. Fr0zen going to prioritize playing the Ice Block this turn.
Crucially, the fact that Fr0zen did draw all three of his secrets at this point, as well as one of his Arcane Intellects, means that Dragon's Fury mostly hits big spells. There are 2 Polymorphs and an Arcane Intellect left in his deck that cost less than 5. Everything else can potentially clear even large minions from Sintolol's side of the board.
Sintolol only has 1 dragon in hand, so if he plays Twilight Drake, Nether Spite Historian will be shut off until he hopes that he draws a better card, or a better dragon, excuse me. And this pressure is not one to be ignored easily. Fr0zen has a lot coming in here.
All right, Dragon's Fury, there are 5 big hits. That's one of them. The board is cleared. And look at Sintolol's face.
That was such a big moment, but he picks up another dragon. Nether Spite Historian can refill the hand. Okay, is now the time. Do you go for the tried and true Twilight Drake, or do you make your way into the semifinals and become a legend? Choose your path, Sintolol, but choose wisely.
Temperis is pretty scary when at best you can break an Ice Block with your 2 turns. You give your opponent 2 turns, they do whatever they want. Nah, he's going to take it safe. My heart definitely said Temperis, but
I don't know.
Even my head there said Twilight Drake.
With so much on the line, this is the last game worth $50,000. You mentioned that they've already earned 50, but they double up to 100, and of course, keep their world championship aspirations alive.
And this is that high health board that can be difficult for Fr0zen to deal with. He still has that Dragon's Fury. He has the ability, if he hits yet another big spell, to clear this board. He does not have Polymorph. He does not have Meteor. He's got Ice Block, though, and he can afford to take it slow.
Now he's playing Ice Barrier. Oh my goodness, hold on.
All right. Divine Spirit Inner Fire is a 14-14 if he goes in the Drake, or he could make a 4-7 and a 10-10.
Right.
Sintolol knows there are 2 Polymorphs and 2 Meteors in Fr0zen's deck.
Yes.
So making 1 big minion right now with the risk of either of those coming out and using your entire combo getting removed, it's got to be scary.
Yeah, he wants to pop at a very low health total, but Fr0zen knows that he doesn't want to play any minions.
He's going for it, though. Investing on the Historian. Now 14 damage coming in from Sintolol. Fr0zen has Blizzard, though.
Yeah. Dirty Rat to shut down the Wild Pyromancer. This is looking mighty grim for Sinto.
Well, he does still have
Potion of Madness.
He has Potion of Madness. He has a Inner Fire. He could break the block. He also has Cleric to heal these minions, and frankly, Fr0zen still doesn't have a way to kill this 10-10.
He does if the Dragon's Fury hits high and he has the Mediz Valid.
It's true. Though Sinto can buff it more. Sinto can Power Word Shield it. He can heal it, get the Cleric buff, Cleric draw as well.
Do you like any form of drawing at this point? Sinto's hand is looking pretty weak.
Someone injured?
Ooh, spreading out the hell.
Okay. Circle
Oh,
of healing.
wow.
That's going to pick up 2 cards for Sintolol.
Dragonid Operative is also a pretty powerful minion with a lot of meatiness.
All right. Going to add even more threat to the board. Well, he knows there's no Geist in the opposing hand.
Yeah, Skulking Geist immediately just wins the game a lot of the time.
Fr0zen still has an Ice Block up. Flame Strike does not do enough. There's too much health on the opposing side of the board. It also means there's one fewer big spell. The Dragon's Fury can hit.
Oh!
Fireland Portal clears the board!
Sintolol is devastated. Fr0zen has cleared the board, and there's almost no way Sintolol can win it back easily anymore.
And now, getting to the late stages, so many of Sintolol's minions are vulnerable to the removals Fr0zen can bring to bear. Draconid Operative finds removal. Alex Straza's not too nice when you already have your opponent down to 6. It is another dragon, though. He cares about turning on any of those synergies, but he does have the Dustbreaker still in his hand.
It's also a big minion.
He needs something to stick. He needs some big minion to stick, and Alex Straza might be it.
Fr0zen at this point is starting to look at Sinto for reads on potential options here.
Fr0zen's body language has changed so much since before this game.
Yes.
Before this game, he was sitting head in hands, almost praying, and now he is staring confidently across the table at Sintolol, who's the one with his head in his hands.
Excuse me, you are on fire.
Desperate time calls for desperate measures. River Crocodile just hit the board.
Fr0zen has Flame Strike if he wants to clear. And he's going to do it
wow.
with the help of these Artificers. 14 more life thanks to that armor. Sintolol is going to have to battle through.
We mentioned at the beginning of this tournament that there only can be one. And only one Control Mage lineup will be able to move forward, and Fr0zen is just a few turns away from locking out Sinto completely.
The thing is, there's just still chains of big minions available.
That is true.
This historian finds an operative, which can find more threats. Fr0zen doesn't have Jaina. Fr0zen doesn't have big removal in his hand. His hand is full of relatively low impact reactive cards. This is not yet over. Fr0zen has stymied Sinto's first push, but he has not turned the corner.
Excuse me, you are on fire.
Blood Mage Thaunos will be pretty important for Fr0zen to draw more cards.
Yeah, he's going to go ahead and cash that in. He's trying to find Jaina more than anything. Jaina will give him the ability to start turning the corner. Okay, Skulking Geist is another big one. Skulking Geist means that the Potion of Madness inner fire outs are gone for Sintolol.
Oh, hold on.
Okay.
We need to talk about this possibility. Sinto.
Things just got real interesting. Because now Sinto may be the one with the Death Knight.
He does have it. So the inner fire plan has been thrown out the window.
We got a new plan.
I'm not sure about the coverage on this one. It's not even plan B. This is plan C or D.
All right, well, now who's the mage?
We said only one mage can get through, and I think this is the showdown we've been waiting for. Both players pretty much at full life at this point.
Fr0zen does have a Meteor. He can clear this board up.
Oh man, yeah, the Disease Outlay helps clean things up very nicely.
You are on fire.
Sinto has no clean way to get a Wire Elemental himself.
He's got a Meteor of his own, though, that he stole from Fr0zen. He can clear some of these off. Lyra. We've seen Lyra do some crazy things in these long games too, but
Yeah.
Sinto is without one cost spells anymore. The Geist removed his one remaining inner fire, but he can still power up this Lyra. Try to get the job done.
Sure.
Mind Blast becomes another spell. Potion of Madness. Okay, let's keep the chain going.
Well, I mean, he can save that for a water elemental.
That's true. That is true.
Actually, just do it if he pushes into the Geist, yeah. Instead of 1 health. Unless Fr0zen is going to ping his own 4-1. Oh,
there's
hold
his
on.
own Jaina. He's got to take down the Lyra, though.
Yeah,
Gonna
that's
trade his
true.
board into this.
Lyra's too
This
threatening.
jungle hides many secrets.
Going to concede the fact that Sinto will indeed get a water elemental. Lyra also being an elemental ends up giving lifesteal to Sinto, but it doesn't matter. What a crazy game.
Sinto has the Meteor, but he needs to respect the threat of a Jaina from Fr0zen as well.
Well, he can develop onto the board and have power with tentacles.
True. He can Twilight Acolyte and nerf this Elise, the Trailblazer, so no threat of getting his Water Elemental killed immediately.
This is still actually very scary. Yeah, the Death Knight here is so hard to deal with.
Yeah, Power Word Tentacles here. Got a huge minion. There's still 2 Polymorphs left for Fr0zen, though. And now it's time for the chain of his own. We got ourselves a Mage Mirror match.
I really don't know who's going to win anymore.
I do not either. Sinto has huge minions in removal. He's just taken Fr0zen's powerful cards and he's using them against him. A Meteor on the Water Elemental. He can potentially kill both of these and push for 7 damage. Is there any way for him to make another Water Elemental this turn?
Oh, nope.
Fr0zen really needs to find Polymorph. He has 2 Polymorphs and a Meteor left in his deck.
Melts away.
Only 8 cards. But Sintolol can save this Meteor for big minions from Fr0zen. He doesn't have to use it now.
That's right.
He can even just kill the Water Elemental on Fr0zen's side. Oh, this is cute. He can make a Water Elemental by swapping his own minion.
What a play from Sintolol. Showing resilient mental fortitude in the most clutchest of moments.
And he knows that there are no AoE cards left. Oh dear. Well, that's an AoE. Meteor, he can't quite make a Water Elemental and clear now, but does get one up to this Water Elemental and has found the Polymorph. So this could be the comeback beginning for Fr0zen of his own Water Elemental Brigade. What even is this game? How is this even happening?
What's become so kind of amusing is that they're in a deadlock grid. They're just kind of stuck in traffic. I thought I left Los Angeles, but it turns out I just flew right to another one. There's so many water elementals congesting the board and kind of hitting each other.
Fr0zen's deck has a Dirty Rat, a Raven Familiar, and a Polymorph left after that draw.
Oh, right. Oh my gosh, I didn't even pay attention to the deck size.
And Sintolol's deck is only 3 cards. He has a Divine Spirit, a Radiant Elemental, and a Shadow Visions of his own.
Right, and the order drawn could also make one of those cards completely dead. So Fr0zen can also play the Outlast battle. He's going to play Alex Straza aggressively.
All right, well, this can be met with this Meteor.
Yeah.
And this lets Sintolol just push damage if he wants. And the lifesteal from these Water Elementals will get Sintolol's life back up. This is a card that Sintolol got off of a Draconet Operative. Fr0zen has no way to expect this is in his hand to play around it.
There is a cheeky way for Sinto to also get another Water Elemental if he doubles the health of the Elise and then Meteors.
Okay, that works.
Do we care about that? as much as we care about having a resilient minion, because we know polymorphs are very good draws and likely to hit this scenario.
Gonna go ahead and Meteor, kill them off. See a shake of the head from Fr0zen.
Yeah, he was hoping there wasn't a way to deal with an 8/8 easily. And this lifesteal negates most of the battle cry.
Dirty Rat is the draw for Fr0zen. Can potentially sweep up another minion with Meteor, but he really wants to start making water elementals of his own. He is behind. It's a Radiant. And if he does cast Meteor now on the water elemental, the double attack plus ping can make another water elemental for Sintolol. Okay.
Wait, whoa.
What was... I'm a little confused. Why did he call it?
He almost played Raven Familiar, but he would have guaranteed a draw,
Right.
which I don't think he wants to do because this fatigue situation is really important.
Well, I'm somewhat confused by his choice to polymorph the smaller one.
Well, because I think he's trying to set up the Meteor,
Okay.
right? Because he can still Meteor the,
Yeah,
the 312.
True. But he could still do that if he killed the 312. He could still cast the Meteor on the one in the middle.
Right.
I must decide.
Sintolol draws and casts his Shadow Vision. No spells left.
And so accounting
Another
for
water elemental.
Yeah, the life total here is also very relevant.
It is, absolutely. And there is a Meteor available to Fr0zen.
No polymorph number 2 yet. Fr0zen just picking up these 2-mana cards that he doesn't want to play yet. And here's another thing too. Fr0zen, by playing the Alexstrasza aggressively, also lost the ability to play it defensively.
True. I think he was expecting that the Alexstrasza's
must
body
decide.
would be what mattered there and didn't account for the Meteor that Fr0zen had stolen with the Operative.
Right, but, you know, Sinto held onto a card for so long. What could he possibly had selected off of the Draken Operative Steel that he wouldn't want to play?
I must decide.
This is very awkward for Fr0zen because if he kills one of the two attack minions, he potentially... I think he has to ping his own water elemental, attack into the 2-power minion, and ping his own water elemental to prevent... Yes. This prevents Sintolol from attacking and pinging as well to generate another water elemental. The last card is drawn for Sintolol, finds a Radiant elemental.
Sinto needs to kill this. He is ahead on the fatigue. But I don't think there's a way out if Fr0zen's able to get the polymorph and land it onto the minion, because then he's going to fall too far behind and all of his minions don't do anything.
The Battle of Jaina's, the Jaina with polymorph, turns out, has a pretty big edge.
Time melts away.
Is there any out for Sinto? Should he just extend onto the board? Is he all-ending at this point?
Just trying to figure out what those last 2 cards are, and this is his
all in.
final push. All the cards are on the table.
Almost out of
That's a
cards.
polymorph. What's the final card in Fr0zen's deck, by the way? Is he allowed to play? He can't actually play these Ravens because they get eaten up, and then the hero power cleans it up.
Can't play them yet.
I must
I
decide.
believe his final card is the second copy of Fireland's Portal. And the polymorph here on the Radiant Elemental takes away an Elemental, also takes away a 2 damage increment, which means that there's no way for Sintolol to attack things into the 3/6 and ping it down.
And the
Fatigue
fatigue
draw number 1.
And this could be the beginning of the end here for Sintolol.
It looked hopeless when Fr0zen had eliminated all of his minions with Dragon's Fury, but the Jaina from the Operative looked like it could turn it around. Fr0zen, though, he has found the tools to fight back.
He's going to try to do as much damage, but if it is indeed Firelance Portal, which it is, this ping from Sinto set it up so that way he can get a Water Elemental, but what minion comes off this Firelance Portal could also be devastating. And Sinto knows what it is.
Yeah, I like this. The Firelands in the 1. Firelands on Northshire Cleric. Gives him another elemental even. Though
If he
actually, the 4/4 means there is a potential attack for Sintolol that will give him an elemental. He can attack into the 4/4 and guarantee himself a water elemental.
The time is now.
Did we call this one too early?
This is more complicated than my brain is wrapping around just yet. And Sintolol's trying to figure out all the complexities himself.
Time melts away.
He's his own minion. Water Elemental versus Arcane Tyrant. The fatigue is ticking for both players.
So that way, Fr0zen doesn't have an opportunity to ping himself. Although he has to kill his own, to kill his own minion by doing this, and sets a position where Sinto can maximize more value, perhaps.
But now there's no opportunity for Sintolol to create a Water Elemental. There's 2 on Fr0zen's side.
Yeah,
And there it is. Fr0zen wins what he thought was an almost impossible matchup. He said he needed a miracle, and he got it. Fr0zen moved on to the semifinals.
Hard-fought match on both sides, and a warm embrace. Game recognizes game.
Look at that reaction from the American player. He is ecstatic.
If you don't like that series, you don't like Hearthstone.
There was so much going on in those games. From beginning to end, so many twists and turns, and Fr0zen now